And he went a little farther and fell on his face and prayed, saying, O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt. So very consistently through my life, I've had people tell me that this verse is about how Jesus does not want to have the crucifixion happen. He doesn't want to go through it. Maybe that's, people are partly thinking that because of this verse, because Jesus says he's got sorrow, but that does not indicate that verse 39 means anything like Jesus doesn't want to go through it. He's trying to, he's saying he doesn't want to do it. First of all, it doesn't say that. It says, let this cup pass from me. How is let this cup pass from me equal to him saying, I don't want to do this crucifixion? I don't want to do it, but it's your will, so I'll do it. I think that's what I hear people saying. How is that? That's not in this sentence here in verse 39. What is in in verse 39? Well, just what it says. Very simple. Let this cup pass from me as you will. Okay, what's the cup? All through the New Testament, Old Testament, what's the vessel, the cup? That's us. That's people. Jesus is a person. God's a person, just like us. And he, therefore, has a vessel. And there he refers to it, the cup. And he says, let it pass from me. Because all through the Gospel of John, he's been saying, it's not my time yet, not my time yet. And all of a sudden, it's his time. And of course, what's the next thing he's going to say? He's saying, let's do it. Let's let it happen. Let this cup pass from me. Now it's time. As if this is like a declaring, now it is happening. Let this cup pass from me. This is beautiful and incredible theology. Incredible scripture. And let me ask you a more poignant question. For all those who are saying, which is apparently a lot of people, that this verse is somehow saying Jesus is saying he doesn't want the crucifixion to happen, how could that be the case? Aside from all the reasons already stated, how could there even be a thought of the crucifixion not happening when you just went through the whole gospel saying, preparing for his time, knowing it, and so forth? But more importantly, knowing that he has to do it because he has to save the world, save us, save all people. The whole thing's planned out. As we know, that's the scriptural position. Acts 4:26-28, and then Acts 2:23 talk about it's the Lord's will doing this. So that the crucifixion's all planned. We know that because he says he chose the people before time who would help get the job done. So it means the crucifixion's planned from before time, predestined. Wow, that's awesome to know these truths. There can't be any resistance to hearing these verses. We need to treat these verses like as if we're scientists. What does a scientist do? A scientist doesn't, when something's confusing in their observation in nature, they don't say, oh, there must be something wrong with nature because my consciousness understands things perfectly. No, they do the opposite. They say, no, something's wrong with my awareness, my ideas, what I'm understanding, because nature's as it should be, my consciousness needs to catch up. Why don't we have that attitude of Scripture? If it says X in Scripture, why is everybody saying, oh, no, it can't really be X? People are constantly adding and subtracting from the word. I was telling the jail inmates today, the biggest difference I see between them and the church folk in the outside world is that the inmates don't change the Scripture. They take it exactly for what it is. This is like a secret that the world doesn't know. It's amazing. It's miraculous to see. It's right out of Scripture. It's prophesied. The kingdom of God is yours, ye poor. Luke 6:20. Not will be, is. And we're not talking about poor in spirit. We're talking about the poor people. Poor in spirit is Matthew's Sermon on the Mount. This is Sermon on the Plain in Luke. Ye poor, the impoverished, yours is the kingdom. So if theirs is the kingdom, then they understand, they have the word implanted into their heart. James 1:21. If they have the word implanted into their heart, they understand it. Yeah, that's what we see in the jail. It's unbelievable. This is miraculous right here. This is just Jesus declaring what's going on. Let this cup pass. It has to be the case. This is the whole point of existence. This is predestined before time that the crucifixion is going to happen. because it has to save the world. So how in the world could Jesus want it, even have a thought in his mind that I don't want it to happen or it's not going to happen? You could say, oh, he just didn't want the pain. But where is that? Anywhere. Anywhere in Scripture. Nowhere. That's what he has to have. He has to have all the pain so he can be fully human. So he can know that. So then we can be like God again. And the image is properly restored after sin did its damage to it. And we're properly like him again. Then we can do what he does. We can ascend to heaven. We can conquer death. We can rapture and do what God. We can do miracles that he does and more. John 14:12. That's the theology of this verse, and that theology is an absolute miracle. Unbelievable, incredible depth. There's so much to that depth. There's even stuff I haven't talked about related to this, like why is it? Why does there have to be a crucifixion? Because God created a corrupt world. 1 Corinthians 15:42, and a bunch of other verses saying that. He had to create a corrupt world because he's the one complete being. He's the one non-corrupt. Everything else he creates, if it's different than him, is not complete and is corrupted. That's why nature's messed up and there's sinful creatures in it, humans. That's why the world has to be saved. And that's the whole point of what's being discussed here. That's why Jesus can't say something like, does the crucifixion really have to happen? I don't want to do it. No, this is the moment of joy. Hebrews 12:2, the crucifixion is hidden joy. A lot of those martyrs after the early church and on through the Middle Ages wanted to be martyred. That's well known if you study the Christian martyrs. A lot of them knew they were going to be, they were planning it, and some wanted to be. They thought it was the proper way to go. Imitation of Christ. Right? So, wow, that's heavy, deep theology. This stuff's never discussed anywhere. Maybe on YouTube and stuff, or in a jail, but not in the big money churches, unfortunately. Big issue. Anyway, so this is miraculous, how this all fits so perfectly into the overall picture of Scripture. Yeah, the cup is ready to pass from him. So this verse does not mean what people say. It obviously doesn't say it anywhere. I've marveled for years of how people can read through this verse, just read the words, is possible, let this cup pass from me. It would be possible, let this cup pass from me, nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt. How they can say, oh yeah, that means Jesus does want to have the crucifixion. This sentence does not equal that sentence. This sentence is what it is. It's Jesus saying the vessel, if we can have the infinite miracle, God, let this cup pass from me. So Jesus has to pray like we do. A lot of people are like, why is he talking to himself? Jesus is God. Great question. Because Jesus has to be like us. He has to be fully human to restore the image. And if he's not praying like we do, he's not fully human. So he has to make himself in his incarnation to be like that, where he has to have that prayer interaction with the Father, with himself.